Generator reeks of gasoline and is leaking gasoline from around air filter. I have a Honda generator model EM7000 as frame serial number, each 105006. The generator has 101 hours on it as of today, and the oil was changed on September 3, 2011 after 97 hours of service and refilled with 10 watts -30 Castrol Oil. Spark plug was cleaned and the gap checked out okay. The sediment cup and O-ring were inspected, cleaned and reassembled. Everything checked out okay. This generator is used as an emergency standby power source for my home wherein live 2 elderly adults, 75+ years. My home is on Long Island in New York State and is prone to power outages due to nor'easters, hurricanes and other severe windstorms due to uprooting of trees and falling limbs. I loaned this unit to my neighbor several months ago and he has just returned the unit to me, and I find that he has left the fuel knob at the on position for the last two months or so. When he finished using the unit, he filled the tank with gasoline. However, he did not turn the fuel switch to the off position. I noticed the strong odor of fuel and the unit will not start. This unit has an electric starter and the battery is fully charged. I attempted to start the unit and nothing. I thought perhaps the oil level was low, however, the low oil pressure warning light did not light. I removed the oil filler cap and what appears and smells to be gasoline comes pouring out of the oil filler hole. I also removed the air filter cover and air filter and was able to squeeze about a cup of raw gasoline out of the filter. Also, the inside of the air filter cover is moist and smells of gasoline. What do I do now, as THS generator may be needed on a moment's notice? Is anybody there?
Thank you for choosing JustAnswer. My name is XXXXXXXXXX. I will do my best to help you find the answer you need to resolve your problem. This is not a huge issue, I see it all the time. First, drain all your oil and refill it with fresh oil. Next, you will want to remove the float bowl. With the gas shut off, you will see a float hanging there. Move it up and down to make sure it is working properly. You can turn the fuel back on to check it using a drip pan. When the float is down, the fuel will flow out of the carb. Hold it up and the fuel should stop. Once you know that this is working, drain all the old gas out of the generator. Today's fuel only has about a 1-month shelf life. Drain it completely, including what is in the line and carb. Once your fuel is completely dry, go ahead and pour about a gallon into the tank and reassemble the carburetor. Now remove the spark plug and with the unit shut off, pull the engine over several times. Be careful because gas will most likely come squirting out of the spark plug hole. Pull it over manually until no more gas, and possibly oil, come out of your plug hole. Reinstall the spark plug, preferably with a new one, and replace your air filter. You can test run the generator with the air filter removed if you would like. Be aware that your engine is going to smoke. This is the excess fuel burning off from inside the muffler. Run it for 10 minutes and then change your oil again to make sure that there is no gas left in the crankcase. I like to have my customers with generators keep their gas supply in a can and once a month empty it into their car and then refill it. This ensures that they always have fresh gas on hand. I am attaching a PDF that goes through the carb cleaning procedure for most Honda engines. This is just so you can see the float bowl and float setup Honda PDF. If you need additional help, feel free to follow up with me. Honda PDF, sorry it did not go through the first time. As a side note, since you will have the carburetor apart, you may want to just replace the float and float valve needle as a precaution.
John, thanks for your reply. This generator was purchased in 2005 and none of the carburetor numbers that are listed on the enclosure that you provided are anywhere listed for my Honda generator. The engine serial number for my generator is GC of 4,107,689. I am not sure of which one of the following numbers is the part number for the carb that is on my generator. HUN 1610ZF6F41 or BE870A. In any event, my entire Honda generator is covered with shrouds and no plumbing, piping or any parts are readily visible. Also, some of the shrouds do not have any visible means of attachment and are therefore I'm not sure how to remove them in order to find the parts we are looking for. Below is a URL that will show you exactly what I'm talking about. http://www.youtube.com/watch. V equals genfjfew. Perhaps you can provide me some additional information that will enable me to disassemble this generator and get it back in service. Thanks, Ray.
I understand the PDF I sent was not exactly for your carburetor. I just wanted to be able to put some pictures to the float bowl and float in a Honda carburetor. Almost all the Honda carburetors are the same, just sized differently, so it is very easy to follow a guide for one carb on a different one. Unfortunately, I do not know much about the side panels and covers for your generator. Honda engines I know inside out. Since you know where your air filter is, your carburetor should be located right behind it. Normally the air filter box is bolted directly to the carb, so if you take the air filter off and then remove the case that hold it, you will be looking directly at your carburetor.
Dear John, thank you for your reply. I will not be able to attempt the repair until late Friday or over the weekend as I have a mandatory commitment today. However, there are a couple of things that I am not sure about in your instructions. First, when the carburetor float bowl is removed after removing the set bolt and set packing, are the carburetor float and float valve going to just fall into one's hand, or is something keeping them in place? There is something called a float pin, however, I cannot see where it is or how it is attached because there is a shroud that covers the entire carburetor with no visible means of removing it. Perhaps you can tell me how I remove this shroud to get access to the physical carburetor assembly, as I do not want to damage anything beyond repair. Second, do you know if the fittings, bolts and nuts etc. are metric or say? My tools do not seem to properly mate with the bolt heads and nut facets. I've tried both metric and say tools and do not want to strip any fittings, bolts or nuts. Third, with a unit only having 101 hours on it, why do you feel that the float and float valve should also be replaced? Fourth, when the oil is drained, there usually remains some residual oil in the crankcase. In my automobile owner's manual, the amount of oil required for with and without the filter are shown. However, I cannot find the refill amount required anywhere in the documents that I have. The only number that I find is the full capacity of 1.16 quarts, 1.1 liter. Do you know what the refill amount of oil should be? I believe it should be less than the dry capacity, however I have no idea of how much less. Last question. Do you recommend conventional oil or full synthetic oil for use in the Honda generator? I truly appreciate your help and am grateful to you for the time that you have spent and are spending on my behalf. Thank you, Ray.
Good afternoon, Ray. Hopefully you are not getting flooded out. Personally, I cannot wait for these storms to move north and cool down southern NH. Here are the answers to your question. Hopefully I have covered all of them for you. 1. The float bowl is held in place by the float pin. It is just a pin that slides through 2 tabs and the edge of the float. It is what the float hinges on as it raises and lowers with the level of fuel in the carburetor. I am not sure of your shroud. If you would like to take a picture of it and post it here, I can take a look for you. 2. Hondas run metric bolts. Almost all of them are 8mm or 10mm with the occasional 12mm for the big stuff. Use 6-point sockets, not 12-point, they grab a hold much better. 3. The fuel leaked through the carb and into the crankcase. There are only 2 ways this could happen. 1. The float valve is not seating correctly and allowing fuel to leak by, or 2. The float has a pinhole in it and is no longer floating. Normally it is the float valve that is the culprit. Instead of going into the carb twice, I just replace the float and valve because they are what I like to call inexpensive insurance. No sense doing this job twice. This is your choice. You can drain the carb and see if you get away with it. You might. I am just trying to save you some work in the future when you need this unit for. 1.16 quarts is the correct amount of oil. Start with a quart and then read the dipstick. When you drain the oil, you should be very close to dry. 5. I always recommend staying away from synthetic oil in these small engines. Synthetic oil is made to be extra slippery for vehicle engines that have very tight clearances. Small air-cooled engines do not have the same tolerances, and synthetic oil tends to burn off easier than conventional oil.
Dear John, you have sent me 3 emails that I have tried to respond to by selecting the reply button, and all 3 cause an error to be displayed as shown below. The web page cannot be found, consequently I am replying to you here. As far as rating your service, I would rate your response as excellent. However, I would also say that the results obtained from your suggestions are far from acceptable for the following reasons. I followed all your instructions. I drained the oil and gas mixture from the crankcase and refilled the crankcase with fresh 10 watts -30 conventional oil. I could not remove the float bowl without removing the entire air cleaner assembly because the carburetor is completely behind the air cleaner filter box. After removing the entire air filter box and assembly, I removed the float bowl and tried it out. The float and float valve operated properly and showed no signs of wear or corrosion. Next, all fuel was drained from the fuel tank and about a gallon of fuel fresh from the service station pump was put in the tank. After all of this, the spark plug was removed, compressed air dried and examined, and showed only slight signs of wear. A new plug was obtained along with a new fuel float valve and float, and a new air filter was also obtained. All of these parts are genuine Honda OEM parts obtained from a certified Honda service center located about 35 miles from my home. I had the Honda service center technician gap the spark plug for me, and I also had him oil the new air filter for me. After I had driven home, I installed the float valve and float and reinstalled the float bowl. My next step was to reinstall the air cleaner box and then install the new air filter and button up the air filter assembly. After that, I went through your suggestions about expelling the oil and gas from the cylinder before installing the new spark plug and then install the plug. After making sure that all parts we reinstalled correctly and that all were firmly tightened to specs, I attempted to start the generator. Upon turning the key to start, the generator belched heavy blue smoke, ran for about 3 minutes and quit. I left the generator sit for about 15 minutes and tried again. The generator again belched blue smoke and this time ran for about 5 minutes and stopped. Again, I left the generator sit for about 15 minutes and tried again. The generator again belched the heavy blue smoke and now ran for about 20 minutes until I shut it off, all the time emitting heavy blue smoke from the exhaust. I then drained the oil as per your instructions and refilled the crankcase with fresh 10W30 conventional oil. I then replenished the gas in the fuel tank with more fresh from the pump gas and fired up the generator again. This time I was determined to run the generator until the heavy blue smoke stopped coming from the exhaust. The blue smoke continued for over 4 hours, and I shut the generator down in disgust. I checked the oil level and it showed no signs of being any lower than when I filled it up. So much for my Saturday. Yesterday, Sunday, I checked the oil level and it was at the proper full mark, and once again I started the generator and the heavy blue smoke continued for a period of 8 hours until I shut the generator off. I let the generator sit for half an hour and then checked the oil level in the crankcase and found it to be at the full mark. Today, Monday, I thought I would try once more. I went through checking the oil thinking perhaps the crankcase might be overfull. Not the case. Started the generator again and have the same blue smoke just as heavy as ever, and after running the generator for another 3 hours shut it off in pure disgust. All the time the generator is emitting the blue smoke, it is running steadily at the proper RPMs and is providing power at the correct levels, except it runs like a very poorly maintained diesel engine. Now you know all the misery and the point to which I've gotten. I cannot run this generator in my residential environment as the heavy blue smoke has a truly offensive odor. Where do I go from here? What do you suggest now? This generator is certainly not functioning properly. Ray.
Wow, everything you have stated I would have expected up to the 10-minute run mark. Your engine was going to smoke until it burned off any excess oil from the exhaust, but should have stopped. Continuing to blow smoke like that is way more than excessive. Excessive blue smoke indicates that you are burning oil as the engine runs. It confuses me that your oil level is still okay. This can be caused by a few things. 1. The air filter can be oversaturated with oil and is easy to check. Just run it without the air filter for a little while. You may also have an obstructed or oil-soaked breather vent. The hose that connects to the back of the air filter box connected to the crankcase breather on the other end of the hose. It may be difficult to get to, especially on this generator, but once you get to it, it should only be held on by 2 bolts and is easily removed. It can be cleaned with warm soapy water, dried and replaced. The other options are that the piston rings or valve seals are worn and may need to be replaced. Both are extremely involved jobs involving disassembling the engine. I am wondering if maybe your neighbor ran the engine with fuel in the crankcase, mixed with the oil, and caused significant damage to your engine, or if the gas mixed with the oil from just sitting. There is no way of knowing this except for asking him, and he may not even know, unless he says it was smoking while he ran it. I would start by running the engine with the air filter removed, cleaning the spark plug, it should be black from burning the oil, and then looking for or examining the crankcase breather. Beyond that, you are looking at having a shop run a compression and leak down test on it and or disassembling it to determine the issue. I am sorry to tell you all this. I wholeheartedly expected to have you change your oil and clean and rebuild the carb and have everything work correctly again. 99% of the time it does with Honda engines.
Dear John, right now we are in the midst of torrential rain, about 4 inches to 6 inches per hour, with all sorts of thunder and lightning. The temperature has dropped 25 degrees in less than 10 minutes. As soon as the storm moves on, I'll go outside and take the air filter off the generator and try to find the crankcase breather tube and check it out. What I think I'll first do is try running without the air filter first, and if things do not improve, then I'll hunt up the breather tube. This generator now has only about 107 hours on it, and I think that's very few hours to require a major engine rebuild, especially when my owner's manual indicates that valve clearance should be checked at 300 hours and the combustion chamber inspected at 500 hours. In any event, I'm not sure what to do with the rating faces, as you have certainly been responsive, have certainly offered information and suggestions for me to do. However, I'm really no better off than when we began this adventure. Do I just check the help the little face and let it go at that? The next level of rating is got the job done, and that is certainly not the case, even though I did all the things you have suggested. I at a loss as to how to properly answer the rating question. Let me know what you think. Thanks, Ray.
The reason I am leaning toward the rings or the valve seals, not the clearances, is because if the engine was run with gas in the oil, then the gas would have caused the damage, not normal engine wear. Think what would happen if you drained the oil out of your car and replaced it with gasoline. Your point of attack seems very logical and is exactly what I would do. Air filter first and then work on the breather. As far as the rating system goes, you got stuck in the middle of a system change. The old system was a positive or negative rating only. Either I helped or I did not. The rating you are seeing is now being changed as it was ambiguous and confusing. What I can tell you is the lower two faces are negative ratings and the top three are positive. I believe. You still have a space to add comments to the rating after you are done, I believe. I will only get paid by this site for a positive answer. That being said, I would rather you not enter any rating and just let the question expire than rate my help as negative, please. Sometimes there are problems that can just not be fixed over the internet without actually being able to put my hands on the engine and test it myself. Also, for your information, any emails you are getting asking for a rating are automatically generated emails. They are not being sent by me.
Dear John, it's now a little after 9 p.m. and still raining. I'll have to wait until tomorrow morning before I can try the generator without the air filter. I'm also going to contact my neighbor about the smoking engine while he was using the generator. How do I let the question expire? This is my first experience with JustAnswer, and I don't as yet know all the ins and outs of the system. I certainly don't think it's right to give you a negative rating, as you have certainly been completely responsive, I'm sure given me your best effort and advice as well as the basis of your experience. I realize that the problem still remains unresolved. However, just as you said, there are sometimes problems that cannot be solved over the internet as the problem, require hands-on activity. Please advise me about the rating, and I'll attempt to keep this question open until we know for sure what the answer is, and somehow see if we can't get you some level of positive credit for all your effort. Thanks, Ray.
The question will remain open as long as we keep corresponding. If it sits idle too long, it will expire. You can also ask me to have it closed manually, which is not a problem. Thank you for not just getting mad and rating me on a negative level. I will work on this as long as it takes to resolve it to the best of my ability.
Dear John, I've tried all your suggestions and I still have the problem. I cannot find any breather for the crankcase. The only breather tube that I can find is the breather tube that goes from the carburetor to the cylinder head cover. This breather tube is shown in the removal and disassembly drawing for the carburetor. I've also talked to my neighbor, and he insists that at no time did the generator show any signs of smoking or rough running. It looks like we are looking at the complete engine rebuild. Where do we go from here? By the way, I know you said that you don't send the Rate My Service emails, however, I'm getting 3 or 4 of them a day. I'm just deleting them, however, they just keep coming. What should I do? Should I just give you a help to little rating and let it go at that, or should I give you I expected more rating? I don't see how I can check got the job done rating. Please advise, as I think you have taken me as far as you can and have been most responsive to my questions. Thanks, Ray.
Hi Ray, sorry to hear this. Yes, I agree and think that it is time to bring it into the dealer and see what they have to say about it. They will be able to diagnose it very easily with the unit in front of them. That helped a little, and I expected more. Ratings are the same as a negative rating. They count against me and I do not get paid for them. I understand that I did not solve your problem and do not expect you to rate me as got the job done. I apologize for not being able to repair your generator with you. I hope in the future, if you have any issues, that you will remember this site. Good luck and take care, sir. John.
Dear John, I wish things had turned out better. I think you did the very best you could, and your suggestions would probably have fixed 99% of most troubles. I'm sorry that we didn't have better luck. Thanks again for all your efforts. Ray.
No problem, Ray. I can't fix everything, especially online. Best of luck, sir.
Dear John, the more I think about it, your service to me was excellent in every respect. Consequently, I think your response to me should be rated as excellent service, and you should certainly be paid for all your efforts on my behalf. Please make certain that my question is open so that I can rate your service. After all, you are a professional and the only thing you have to give is your time and your expertise. You certainly gave me a large measure of both, and I think you should certainly be compensated. After all, I'm sure if you were my local Honda service dealer, you would have told me the same things and would have ultimately physically done the final repair yourself. Therefore, you should be compensated. Please make sure my question is open and please reply to this note so that I can rate your service. Thanks again for all your help and have a great day and a great 4th of July. Ray.
Thank you very much, sir. That is very nice of you and I certainly appreciate it. The question should now be open and you should be able to rate or accept. Same thing, my answer. Thank you again and best of luck to you, John.
Dear John, how can I contact you in the future to let you know what the final diagnosis and outcome of my problem is? I would really like you to know what I finally find out about this disaster. I presume that when my question is closed, I'll have no way to contact you. My direct email address is xxxxx@xxxxxx. 30 and my telephone number is xxxxx. Please provide me with an email address where I can let you know what happens. Thanks again for all of your truly superb efforts on my behalf. Have a great 4th of July. Ray Beadle Jr.
Thanks, Ray. This site does not allow me to email or call you directly. Your information is also blocked out on my end. You can always respond to this same question since it is a follow-up. If for some reason you cannot respond to this when you have an answer, you can request me personally, and we can correspond that way. Have a great 4th yourself, and good luck, sir.
Dear John, thanks for the note. I wonder what kind of people are monitoring communication. However, they must be afraid that someone is going to cheat them out of some revenue. I guess that I'll never understand that mindset. In any event, here's the same information in another form. Oral meaning voice, and for written stuff, the first 5 characters of my last name immediately followed by the first 2 characters of my first name or my id, xxxxxxx, which is followed by 6 characters that are the Internet ISP provider, XXXXXXX. To properly parse the string, XXXXXXXXXXXX, insert the @ sign after the 7th character, between the A and the M, and insert a dot between the N and the C. This will give you a parse phrase that will have the proper configuration of the form 7 letters, the @ sign, followed by 3 letters, followed by a period, followed by 3 letters. This will give you a proper destination for written stuff. What this amounts to are the first 5 letters of my last name together with the first 2 letters of my first name, followed by the @ sign, followed by the short form for Microsoft Network, followed by a period, followed by the abbreviation for commercial. Let's see if this works. It's worth a try anyway. Here goes. Please reply to this note after you get it, as I am curious if it got through in this manner. Thanks again for everything. You have my deepest respect. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX
Ray, that was a lot of work and I understand. The issue is that I am employed by this site and cannot afford to lose this job, or I would not be able to afford my mortgage. As experts, we monitor each other's correspondences so that we can help each other out. We are held to this through an honor system, and that is not something that I am willing to give up. I apologize for not being able to communicate outside this site. I hope you understand.
Dear John, no problem. I fully understand and in no way want you to be put at risk. I'm 76 years old and have worked on classified computer systems since I was 20 years old and know all about what you say. I simply wanted to see if the JustAnswer computer system and software were really sophisticated or just pattern dependent. I spent the past 35 years testing the system integrity and intrusion protection of very sophisticated federal government and military computer systems. I just want whomever reads our correspondence to know that the JustAnswer system's parsing algorithm isn't as sophisticated as one might think. In fact, if you want to use this latest set of exchanges between us to encourage the JustAnswer computer systems people to improve their parsing algorithms in order to better secure their operation, please feel free to do so. Also, I completely understand peer review, however, it also has its limitations. As I said earlier, I respect your integrity, and because this is the first time I have used JustAnswer, I was unaware that I could recontact you once a question was closed. Please consider these last 2 or 3 exchanges a free test as to the sophistication of the JustAnswer system's parsing algorithm, and as I said, please feel free to use our exchanges as a constructive example for the JustAnswer people charged with the system's integrity function of the business. Please advise me as to how to properly follow up on this question after I really find out what's wrong with the Honda generator, and how to request you again in the future should the need arise, or just tell me where I can find the how to section that contains the proper steps that I would need to take. Thanks again. Ray.
No problem, Ray. I liked reading your response. When you are ready to follow up with me, you can simply respond to this answer.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit justanswer.com/YTHI.